How are you? I'm fine. You've said it 100 times. Maybe today, even when your chest felt tight, your eyes were stinging or your mind was somewhere dark and heavy. Someone asked, and without even thinking, those two words came out. I'm fine. Not I'm struggling. Not actually I've had a really hard week. Just fine, clean, simple, closed. As a psychologist, I want to tell you something important. That response isn't a lie in the way we usually think about lying. It's not manipulation, and it's not even really about the other person. I'm fine is often one of the most practiced, automatic protective habits the human mind creates. And today, I want to unpack exactly why we do it and what it's quietly costing us. It starts with learning that emotions have consequences. Nobody is born saying I'm fine when they're not. Watch a toddler. When they're upset, they cry loudly without apology. When they're hurt, everyone around them knows it instantly. There's no filter yet. Somewhere along the way, that changes. And usually, it changes because of what happened after we expressed our feelings honestly. Maybe you cried and were told to stop being dramatic. Maybe you shared that you were scared, and someone got impatient or uncomfortable. Maybe you were the strong one in your family, the one who wasn't supposed to add more weight to an already heavy household. Maybe honesty about your pain was met with silence, dismissal, or someone else's bigger problem taking the spotlight. Every one of those moments taught the same lesson. Emotional honesty has a cost, and your brain, always trying to protect you, took note. It built a shortcut, a default response, ready to deploy the instant someone asks how you're doing. I'm fine became armor, quick, low risk, and reliable. I'm fine is a social shortcut, not just a feeling. Here's something we don't talk about enough. Most of the time, when someone asks, "How are you?" they're not actually asking for a real answer. It's a social greeting, almost like hello. And your brain knows this. It's read the room 1,000 times before you were even consciously aware of it. So part of saying I'm fine is simple social calibration, not wanting to overload a casual moment with a heavy answer. That part is completely healthy. Not every moment and not every person deserves your unfiltered inner world. But here's where it becomes a problem. When I'm fine isn't a choice anymore. When it's not a decision about this specific person or this specific moment. It's just what happens every time with everyone, including the people who actually care and are asking for real. That's not social politeness anymore. That's avoidance. The deeper layer, numbing the feeling, makes it real. There's a psychological phenomenon worth understanding here. Saying a feeling out loud, I'm anxious, I'm hurting, I feel lost, does something powerful. It makes the emotion concrete, undeniable. Once it's spoken, it exists in the room and you have to acknowledge it. For a lot of people, that acknowledgement feels more frightening than the emotion itself. As long as you don't say it, some part of you can pretend it isn't fully real, or that it will pass on its own if you just keep moving. I'm fine isn't just about hiding from other people. It's often about hiding from yourself too. There's actually a helpful concept in psychology called emotional granularity, the ability to identify and label your feelings with real specificity. People with low emotional granularity tend to lump every uncomfortable feeling into one vague category. Fine, okay, stressed. People with high emotional granularity can say, I feel disappointed, a little embarrassed, and worried I let someone down. That specificity isn't just descriptive. Research links it to better emotional regulation. In other words, numbing the feeling accurately is often the first step to actually feeling better. So when you default to I'm fine, you're not just avoiding a conversation. You might be skipping the very step your nervous system needs to start processing what's really going on. Fear of being a burden. This one runs deep for so many people, and I want to say it gently. If part of you believes that your pain is an inconvenience to others, that belief almost never comes from nowhere. Maybe you grew up around someone whose emotions took up all the space in the room, and you learned to shrink yours to keep the peace. Maybe you've been let down before you opened up, and the person didn't know what to do with it, or worse, used it against you later. Maybe you're someone others lean on constantly, and somewhere along the way you absorb the belief that your role is to hold things together, not to need holding yourself. "I'm fine" becomes a way of protecting the people around you from a version of you that you've decided is too much. But here's the truth. The people who genuinely care about you are not burdened by your honesty. They're burdened by watching you struggle in silence and not being allowed to help. The cost of constantly saying you're fine. I want to be honest with you about what this pattern does over time, because it's rarely neutral. Suppressing emotion consistently, psychologists sometimes call this emotional suppression, doesn't make the feeling disappear. It just moves it. Research on suppression shows it often increases physiological stress, even while the person appears calm on the outside. Your heart rate, your cortisol, your nervous system, they know the truth, even when your words don't. Over time, this can show up as unexplained fatigue, irritability that seems to come from nowhere, tension headaches, trouble sleeping, or a strange sense of numbness, like you're watching your life instead of living it. And relationally, it creates distance. People can only meet you as deeply as you let them see you. If fine is always the answer, intimacy has nowhere to grow. So what do you do instead? I'm not going to tell you to overshare with everyone who greets you in the hallway. That's not the goal, and it's not realistic. The goal is choice, being able to access honesty when it matters, instead of it being locked behind an automatic response. 1. Start with yourself first. Before you can be honest with anyone else, practice being honest with yourself. When you notice you're about to say, "I'm fine," pause for 1 second and privately ask, "Is that actually true?" You don't have to announce the real answer to anyone. Just let yourself know it. 2. Build your emotional vocabulary. Instead of reaching for fine, okay, or stressed, try to get specific. Are you overwhelmed, disappointed, lonely, on edge? The more precisely you can name it, the more manageable it becomes. 3. Choose one safe person. You don't need to be an open book to everyone. You need at least one relationship where honesty is welcome. Start small. Try saying, "Actually, today's been a bit hard," instead of your usual script, and see what happens. 4. Reframe what honesty means. Being honest about struggling isn't weakness, and it isn't burdening someone. It's offering them the real you instead of a performance. Most people don't want your fine. They want you. A gentle closing thought. If you've spent years perfecting the art of "I'm fine," please hear this. That skill kept you safe once. It might have even been necessary. But the situation that taught you to hide may not be the situation you're in anymore. You're allowed to not be fine. You're allowed to say it out loud. And the right people, the ones truly worth having in your life, won't run from your honesty. They'll lean in closer. So the next time someone asks how you're doing, and you're not fine, you don't have to pour your whole heart out. But maybe, just maybe, you can let the truth take up a little more space than it usually does.